Welcome everyone to the first Decompressed Productions behind the scenes look. We're going to talk about the underwater videography and photography that goes into each one of our interviews, all those nice scenes that you see cutting up the dialogue there, keeping it nice and entertaining for you all. I'm going to talk about how we actually accomplish that in a way that achieves the effect that we want. I know a lot of you are interested in underwater and videography and photography, so today we're going to dive on into that. So who am I? I am Fino. I'm half of the Decompressed Productions team. The other half, Michael Turek, will be posting his own video shortly and eventually be collectively getting together and doing one. I have been cave diving for around 6-7 years, diving in the water for about 17 years, and currently I am diving a couple of rebreathers in addition to scooters, cave DPV, etc. I've been doing this for a while, right? Now, photography-wise, I grew up around photography. My dad was a professional commercial photographer in Los Angeles, and I would help him out ever since I was a young kid. I had a passion for it. I enjoyed doing it. You might be able to find an old YouTube channel out there of filming some hardcore parkour videos of myself. So I've always been into photography and videography since a very young age. Capturing video and photography underwater is one of the most challenging things you can do while diving and just in general when it comes to photography. The environment is not conducive to it at all. It requires special equipment and training, as well as just refining your skills well enough to be able to achieve these looks that you want in a professional looking manner. You have to be able to control your buoyancy near perfectly. You're holding the camera as still as you possibly can, and you also have to manage all of the systems that you're wearing, whether it's open circuit or your rebreather, your dry suit, your BCD, maybe a DPV as well. It takes a lot of hands to do all that, and I jokingly refer to when I take my camera underwater with me is I need a third hand to be able to manage all of that equipment. Now I'm holding on to a camera, maybe I've got a DPV here. How do I hit the manual add valve on my rebreather in order to get enough diluent in the loop to be able to breathe? How do I switch regulators when I'm doing those things if I'm open circuit? All of those things make it a more challenging environment in order to get the shot that you are looking to achieve. One of the easiest things to do and to start off your underwater photography or videography is to get yourself a little action cam, just like this one here. This is a GoPro 12, nothing fancy. It gets a little dive housing like this, very simple. I think these are good down to around 200 feet or so. They're not super deep, but in general, if you're going that deep, you're gonna want an action cam, not a giant housing to haul around, as the tanks and everything you're hauling around with you get to be quite the mess. Now, these are great for lots of light, not necessarily low light conditions. The benefits are they're super small, very easy to carry around with you. You can strap them onto a scooter. You can see I have some special light mounts made up where I can strap lights and a GoPro onto my DPV. That way I can just take video on the fly, literally not have to worry about it, get some really cool zooming shots through the cave, things like that. Nothing too crazy, but it's very nice to be able to have something small you can put in a pocket or snap onto the DPV and just get some video with fairly minimal effort. Now, not great for low light though. So a step up from an action cam, you could go to a point and shoot. I've shot on a Nikon D200, was one of my first underwater still cameras. Now I've moved on to the EOS R, so Canon EOS R. A couple of years or models are older now. I still love it. I bought it because of the low light capability of that camera specifically. Now in caves, as many of you already know, there is zero natural light, so you have to bring it all with you, and an added benefit is with the power of non-natural light not being as great as the sun, you are going to want a sensitive camera to be able to reduce the noise in those low light conditions. Really, the reason to step up that next level is you are trying to get or achieve a more professional look. Maybe you want some depth of field effects in there. Maybe you want to be able to change up your ISO, your f-stop, the speed of the shutter, whatever it might be, you want that control over it at that point. Now, my Canon EOS R I'm filming with right now, it works great above the water, works great below the water. Has extremely good low light sensitivity, and it's another tool that I can add in order to be able to achieve whatever shot that is desired. Along with your dedicated camera, whether that is a GoPro or a DSLR mirrorless, that type of camera, full body camera, full frame maybe, you're going to want a variety of lenses. On the camera I'm filming right now, I have an 18 by 135. That's a huge range that it allows me to shoot in both above and below water. Having a prime lens underwater is one less thing you have to worry about. I don't have to worry about zoom gears. I've got autofocus on there. Don't have to worry about manually focusing the camera, which has its pros and cons. Now, another thing that's great to have are filters. I have a variety of filters here between NDs. Some of them burst out stars. You can also have a polarizer on there for those split shots where you're shooting half above and half below the water. You can use that polarizer to really tune out the sky so it doesn't blow out the image. That way you have nice crisp visuals above and below the water with a nice exposure as well above and below the water, since the water cuts out a good portion of the light as soon as you go underneath. Definitely nice to have. With your housing, it's important to make sure that it is as neutral in the water as possible. I have personally made a 3D printed adapter that puts a 2-pound weight out on a lever arm to offset that giant buoyant force from the dome port. Now, it is perfectly neutral in the water. I can let go of it and it just floats there for me. Not only is it perfectly neutral, because of this weight out here, it floats horizontally. It doesn't want to tilt itself up, so I don't have to fight it the entire time to keep it down. Now, if you add lights to it, like this one here, these are fairly negatively buoyant underwater. That becomes a problem if you are hooking them onto and off of your underwater housing. There are a variety of manufacturers out there that make floats. All I will say is pick the one that works best for you, and you can use it to attach and detach a neutrally buoyant light to a neutrally buoyant camera, and that works fantastic. Another option that you have is to use the lights off of the camera by themselves, which I highly recommend, and I personally do quite a bit. It allows you to offset the light from the camera, which gets rid of things like backscatter from the particles in the water. Regardless of how crystal clear you think that water might be, there are absolutely going to be tiny little particles of something floating around in it. That's why I highly recommend either having very long arms or planning ahead where your light is going to be positioned within the cave or underwater environment and setting the lights up there. That's why I have these on little bolt snaps. I unclip them from my harness or my pocket, and I place them where I want them to be and angle them where I want them to be, and then I leave them there. That is why I use video lights and not strobes as well. By being able to place the light up ahead of time, where you want it, how you want it, it allows you much greater control of your lighting source and allows for dramatic effects. Now, underwater, we don't have the luxury of having a stabilizing gimbal to place our cameras on. In order to achieve a smooth shot with any sort of motion of the camera or panning, it is critical to maintain neutral buoyancy and also set yourself up for success. It is not always the best idea to hold the camera by the handles like this, as it can provide a rolling motion on the camera. It's harder to control the rolling with these two handles than it is to say the more yawing motion there. Now, I personally have a tripod that I hook up underneath here, and I will hold the camera here and by the tripod like this in order to be able to eliminate a roll and a yaw motion that provides a very stable effect. Not saying that works for everyone, but it is something you're going to want to consider to be able to provide smooth shots for your filming. It also goes without saying that if you're taking photos underwater, you want a stable platform as well. Any sort of motion with the camera is going to introduce blur, regardless of how fast you're taking that photo. You might have a shutter speed of 1/300th of a second, and you can still get blur if you're moving that camera fast enough. or you just happen to have a little shake and then there goes the photo that you've just did a 3-hour dive to get. Along with the stability that having proper buoyancy control provides, it also allows you to do things like move the camera where you want it to be. You can act as if you are a camera crane. You can take a deep breath in or adjust your buoyancy properly and start to raise that camera up for a nice dramatic rising effect, or ride the flow backwards in order to be able to film a panning out type of shot. There are a lot of different lighting techniques out there for cave photography and videography specifically. A very common one is to backlight the subject with a light facing towards the camera. So if you have a light facing towards you right now and you are the photographer, that creates a huge glow behind the diver or whatever it is that you're backlighting, provides a kind of dramatic halo effect. Very commonly used throughout the world, especially with powerful lights. It will illuminate the background as well. It's also typical to have a light pointing backwards from the subject. You may often see lights placed on the end of a tank illuminating the background behind a diver is typically how this is used, which illuminates a giant room with the diver swimming towards the camera, and you can see the room and the diver illuminated nicely. My personal favorite is having staged or pre-set up lighting for the shot. That involves placing a light specifically aimed at where you want the light to be. It allows you to highlight whatever it is you want to bring attention to the viewer. It also allows you to get rid of or black out areas that you don't find visually important. That is my favorite and go-to. It's by far the most time consuming, I'll tell you that now. That's one of the main reasons why I dive closed circuit rebreathers. That's to be able to have the time to set up lights where I want them in order to get the shots that I want. In addition to that, there's one more. I won't say it's necessarily a lighting technique, but it is a photography technique, and that is long exposure photography. This is by far my favorite thing to do. It allows you to set the camera up on a tripod and paint the areas of a cave or person or whatever it might be that you're actually trying to take a photograph of. Because it's over 30 seconds or more typically for these photos, sometimes a little less, it allows you to capture multiple moments of time in a single photograph. I can write a name with a light. I can illuminate specific parts of the cave that I really want to highlight. I can even take a picture of myself. As you can see in this photo of Morrison Springs, I took a photo of myself swimming in front of the camera. I lit myself up with a video light, and then I painted the rest of the cave to show up in the photo. Once that shutter closed, I came back to the camera, picked it up, and got to see this incredible photo that you all can see now. Shooting with natural light is a whole nother ballgame. Now you have a giant light source that's washing all of your subjects in the picture together. Now, this can be hugely beneficial if you're trying to get sun rays, let's say, in a sink, like in this photo of Emerald Sink. You can see the natural light provided by the sun coming through the trees provides these very large and bright light rays that come down, illuminate the divers that are swimming towards me, and overall just provide a unearthly-like appearance to the entire photo. Now in these photos of the Bahamas, you can see that natural light provides a totally different perspective. It's a bright, luminous landscape of a coral reef or a shark. I also shoot with strobes in these photos, and that's to bring the shadows of the photo out into the picture. Maybe I want to see the pillar that this coral is on top of, or the shark, I want to be able to see a nice bright white underbelly of the shark. Whatever it is, this natural light amplifies everything that's coming into the camera and makes it a lot easier to shoot. Now with that, if we're doing a split photo like the one that you can see here, it is important to also still use artificial light. And this photo specifically, you can see that the divers are illuminated from below via my lights to bring out those details to the viewer. Now it's also important not to wash out the sky when you do this. Managing your camera settings is imperative towards getting a beautiful looking split shot. All right, thanks everyone for watching. That's a very broad overview of everything underwater photography and videography. Leave a comment below on what you'd like to see in future videos, and like and subscribe. Thanks.